When Michael Harper pushed open the door of his modest Ohio home, exhaustion clung to him like a second skin. It had been another grueling day at the oncology center, where his 12-year-old son, Ethan, battled leukemia with a courage that broke and mended Michael's heart daily. Normally, their pug, Teddy, would greet him with a flurry of barks, his chubby body waddling, golden fur bouncing like a tiny sun. But today, the house was eerily silent, no eager claws tapping the hardwood, no joyful yips. Michael's stomach tightened. Something was off. Then, from the hallway, Teddy appeared. Michael froze. The dog before him was a stranger. Gone was the fluffy coat that Ethan loved to bury his face in. Teddy's skin was bare, pink, and raw, his folds stark and unnatural, like a deflated toy. A stiff blue ribbon was tied around his curly tail, a mocking flourish. The pug's eyes, usually bright with mischief, were dull, his ears twitching nervously. Michael's breath caught as a sharp voice sliced through the silence. "I warned you that scruffy mutt was dragging down our street's appeal," declared Vivian Marsh, the neighborhood's self-proclaimed guardian of perfection. She stood on the sidewalk, arms crossed, her wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over her smug expression. "Now he's finally respectable." Laura, Michael's mother, emerged from the kitchen, her face draining of color as she took in Teddy's trembling form. She just returned from the hospital with news that Ethan, weakened by his third round of chemo, had only one request: to see Teddy, his anchor through nausea and pain. That dog was Ethan's safe harbor, the one constant in a world of sterile hospital rooms and endless tests. Now, that comfort had been stripped away without a word. Laura's voice quivered as she stepped onto the porch. "You shaved our dog? Without asking?" Vivian didn't flinch. "I left a notice on your mailbox weeks ago. HOA rules, section 4.3, mandate well-groomed pets for community standards. I did what was necessary." Michael's fists clenched. "You broke into our yard and touched our dog. He's not your property." Vivian adjusted her hat with a flourish, unfazed. "If you weren't so consumed with your hospital visits, perhaps you'd have handled it. Some of us care about order." The air grew thick with tension. Laura knelt beside Teddy, her fingers brushing raw patches where clippers had burned his skin. "He can't even go outside like this," she whispered, tears welling. Teddy whimpered, a sound that cut deeper than Vivian's words. But Vivian merely sniffed and turned away, her heels clicking against the pavement. "You're welcome," she tossed over her shoulder. Michael's chest heaved, rage locking his jaw. This wasn't just about a haircut. It was about control, about someone who saw a sick boy's pain as collateral damage in her quest for perfection. Ethan, fighting for his life, was coming home to a world that no longer felt safe. Michael vowed this wouldn't end here. At the hospital, Ethan had begged for a brief escape. His immune system was frail, his body 20 pounds lighter, each breath a labor. Yet his eyes, shadowed by sleepless nights, sparked when he whispered, "I just need Teddy. I need home." Laura knew the risks every outing was a gamble, but Ethan's plea was more than a wish. It was a lifeline. They bundled him in blankets, his thin frame sinking into a wheelchair, his head lolling against a pillow. As they neared their street, he murmured, "Does Teddy miss me?" Laura forced a smile, her heart pounding. "He's been waiting." Michael met them in the driveway, crouching to steady Ethan as he gripped his sleeve. A bark rang out familiar yet wrong. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, searching the porch. "That's him, right?" he rasped. Then he saw Teddy. Time stopped. The golden pug with the lopsided ears was gone, replaced by a shaved, trembling creature, the blue ribbon fluttering like a cruel taunt. Ethan's face crumpled confusion, then horror. His lips quivered. "What? What happened to him?" He pushed himself up, hands shaking on the armrests, legs wobbling. "What did she do?" he whispered. Then he collapsed. His knees hit the steps with a sickening thud, his body folding like paper. Laura screamed, dropping her purse as she rushed to him. Michael lifted Ethan, his son's breathing shallow, his skin ghostly. Across the street, Vivian watched, arms folded, a faint smirk curling her lips. I thought he'd at least fight for the dog, she said, shaking her head. A little discipline might help. Michael froze. Laura's gaze snapped to Vivian, fury and disbelief warring in her eyes. Next door, Mr. Ellis, a quiet retiree, had stepped out with soup for the family. His phone was already recording, capturing Vivian's cold commentary. I'm sorry, she added, her eyes not on Ethan's crumpled form. But some of us value standards. The moment shifted. This was no longer about a doge, it was about cruelty cloaked in righteousness, about pain ignored for the sake of rules. Ethan, barely conscious, clutched Michael's sleeve. I saw him, he mumbled. That's enough. But Laura shook her head. Not this time. Mr. Ellis hit send. Within minutes, the video raced through the neighborhood, then beyond. By nightfall, the block had seen it, a sick boy collapsing, his dog trembling, and Vivian's voice dismissing it all. By morning, the street transformed. Neighbors gathered, first a handful, then dozens standing shoulder to shoulder outside the Harper home. They brought dogs of every breed, leashed and calm, holding signs. Not on our block, Teddy is family, Ethan, we're with you. A child wore a shirt scrawled with Team Ethan. A neighbor set up water and treats. It wasn't a protest, it was a stand for kindness. Inside, Laura watched through the blinds, her hand on her heart. Michael stood beside her, Ethan resting upstairs, unaware of the movement below. Then Vivian emerged, clutching HOA papers, her voice cutting through the quiet. As enforcement coordinator, I acted within my rights. Section 4.3 is clear. This gathering violates my peace. I've called the police. A patrol car arrived, and Officer Sarah Bennett stepped out, her calm eyes scanning the scene. Vivian approached. Officer, clear this harassment. Bennett paused, noting the orderly crowd. Ma'am, this is a peaceful assembly on public property. No laws are broken. Vivian bristled. I enforce policy. Bennett's gaze hardened. Shoving someone's dog without consent isn't policy. It's animal mistreatment, a criminal matter. Get legal counsel. Vivian's papers trembled. The crowd stirred, her untouchable aura cracking. 2 days later, Vivian sat in a Montgomery County courtroom, her hat gone, her HOA rules clutched like a lifeline. The room was packed, reporters, neighbors, and an animal rescue group that had filed charges of cruelty. The prosecutor's voice was steady. This isn't just about a pet. It's about authority misused, boundaries violated, and a child suffering ignored. Vivian defended herself, citing rules, but the prosecutor cut in. You acted without compassion, without thought for a boy fighting for his life. The judge's ruling was firm: a $12,000 fine, 80 hours at an animal shelter, and mandatory empathy training. Vivian stood silent, her defiance fading. Outside, neighbors lined the walkway with dogs, signs sharp. Grow Teddy's fur back. Where's your conscience? Her own words echoed from a phone. A little discipline might help. She fled to her SUV, hands shaking, the crowd's quiet judgment heavier than any shout. The HOA board acted swiftly, removing Vivian unanimously. A letter arrived at her home, plain and cutting. You no longer represent us. We're ashamed you ever did. Her whiteboard of tasks stayed blank, her phone silent. The neighborhood moved on, but Vivian was a ghost, her control shattered. At the Harper home, warmth returned. Volunteers brought a knitted sweater for Teddy. A classmate delivered cookies with a note. I baked these for you, Ethan. Ethan, frail but smiling, hugged Teddy on the couch. He's still mine, even bald. Officer Bennett dropped off a camo vest for Teddy, embroidered. Sir VYC dog, Ethan. The house felt whole. Weeks later, Ethan returned to the clinic, his eyes brighter, Teddy trotting beside him in his vest. Nurses called him the kid with the battle dog. Other patients drew strength from petting Teddy, a ritual that eased fears. Ethan, once just a patient, became a beacon of resilience. By spring, at a community picnic for cancer fighters, Ethan and Teddy sat on the lawn, Teddy's fur regrowing, a sign proclaiming, "Kindness is strength. Our dog is a hero." The crowd clapped not out of duty, but love for a boy who held on, and a dog who never left his side.